Hello, welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. This is Moses Gumadi, and in this video we'll talk about Aramaic language, Aramaic passages in the Hebrew Bible. Okay, let's read 2 Kings chapter 18 verse 26. Vayomer Eliakim ben Hilkiyahu veshevna veyoach el Ravshakeh. Then said Eliakim the son of Hilkiah or Hilkiyahu and Shebna and Yoach to Rabshakeh. What did they say? This Rabshakeh is the chief of staff or the army general of the Assyrians. And so they spoke. These are the Jews: Eliakim, Shebna, Yoach, etc. And this guy was threatening them, Rabshakeh. So they say to him, Dabberna el avdecha Aramit. Please speak to your servants in Aramit. It is translated as the Syrian language, basically in Aramaic. Please speak to your servants in Aramaic. And so they say, don't speak in the Jews' language. Ve'al tedabber imanu Yehudit. Please, and don't speak with us, right, in Yehudit. Yehudit and Aramit. These are the names of these two languages. Aramit is Aramaic and Yehudit is Jewish. In fact, the word Yiddish, the Eastern European Jews speak a form of Hebrew. It is actually Hebrew plus German mixed up together, and they call it Yiddish. Yiddish means basically Jewish. Of course, that's not the language that those people spoke. Obviously, they spoke Hebrew. In those days, they called it Yehudit or Jews language. Or maybe it was a slightly different dialect in the kingdom of Judah when compared to the kingdom of Israel in the north. And maybe therefore they said Yehudit, and perhaps, who knows, in the north they may have said Israelite. We don't know. Okay, these are the two names of the languages, Aramit and Yehudit. Okay, the alphabet, obviously, of Aramaic alphabet, is exactly the same as that we are exposed to in this channel. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, etc. 22 letters and alphabet are just the same. And of course, these 5 letters, Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pe, Tzadeh, also have final forms. Those of you who have been watching my Hebrew Bible channel, have gone through my videos, etc. You must be familiar with these things. Now, these letters are basically Aramaic script letters. So, Hebrew text in the Bible that we now have has been written in Aramaic text, and this was done in the times of Ezra. So we're talking about 400, 500 BC, somewhere in the middle of that. So they basically converted the old texts into these letters. That's because obviously people did not know how to read those old letters in those days, because they came back from Babylonian captivity. In Babylon, this was the Aramaic was the language, and they knew those letters, and therefore it was easier for them to teach, etc. So they adapted the alphabet, but the language of Hebrew remains the same and grammar remains the same. Okay, in the Bible, in the Aramaic sections of the Bible, which I'm going to shortly introduce, the alphabet used is exactly the same. There is no difference between the alphabet or the vowels, and therefore if you are able to read Hebrew in the Hebrew Bible, you can easily read Aramaic portions as well. Okay, now there is another form of Aramaic called Eastern Aramaic. In fact, the New Testament was also translated into Aramaic, or some people say that was the original. We don't want to go into that question. That is the Peshitta, or maybe the predecessors of Peshitta. The script of that looks different, and that is not the same script as what we have here. All right. And so this is a different script that you're seeing. And even I think this language is also spoken in some places, very small portions of numbers of people are there. And their script obviously is this that you see on the screen, which is not the same as the Aramaic we are talking about, because the Aramaic we are talking about is the Western Aramaic. This is the Eastern Aramaic. There will be a lot of parallels. Probably the language is just the same. It's sort of a dialect, but script is different. Okay. Now let's come back to another name of Hebrew language. What was Hebrew originally called? I'll read Isaiah 19:18. We read here, Bayom hahu yihyu chamesh harim be'aretz Mitzrayim medaberot safat Canaan. In that day, 5 cities, chamesh arim, 5 cities in the land of Egypt, be'eretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt, medaberet, they will speak Safat Canaan. Safat Canaan, the language or the lips of Canaan, the language of Canaan. So this is the name Safat Canaan of the language of Canaan is the name of Hebrew. The Hebrew that we are familiar with, that is the Hebrew that was written, that's used in writing the Hebrew Bible. So basically the Canaanite language, which sometimes the scholars call the Phoenician, although the word Phoenicia is a Greek word, so it's just that, the Romans or Greeks or somebody named that, but basically there were no people who called themselves Phoenicians, but the Canaanites and the Hebrews and the Moabites and the Ammonites and the Edomites and all those people in those areas, they spoke this very language, the language of Canaan. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, obviously, they probably would have known Aramaic as well. Perhaps Abraham would have known Aramaic because he came from that area. So, and Aramaic and Hebrew are close to each other. They are like probably dialects. They are separate languages. But they're quite related. Okay. Now, the script of this old Safat Canaan, the language of Canaan, which is the original Old Hebrew script, will be like this. And you will notice, this is very old. This is in fact the first alphabet of all languages. And you can see here the Aleph looks like A rotated 90 degrees, right? And you can see the small B rotated 180 degrees, etc. So Gimel, this is, right? Some letters are, you can see Zain is Z, and then Mem and Nun, or you can approximate them to M and N. Lamed is L. Look at Kaf is like a, mirrored K. So, these letters are very much there. This tau is X, although the X is used for a different, in a different sense in the Roman and the Greek scripts. So all scripts have come from this. All right, let's move on. Now we'll come to Aramaic portions of the Hebrew Bible. Now these are the major portions. In fact, these are the portions that everyone agrees that the text is in Aramaic. So there is one verse in Genesis with only 2 words in Aramaic. Okay, there is one verse in Proverbs with just 1 word in a Hebrew sentence in Aramaic. Jeremiah 10:11, only 1 verse. All the words, all the 15 words, the whole verse is in Aramaic. And the major sections of Aramaic, therefore, in the Hebrew Bible really are Ezra and Daniel. So you can see here Ezra and Daniel, 52 plus 15. There are 2 sections. In between there is a gap, there is a Hebrew gap. So it ends at 6:18 and then begins at 7:12. So these 2 sections of Ezra, 52 plus 15 will be about 60 to 67 verses, and these many words are Aramaic. And then we have Daniel. This section is Aramaic as well. Okay. In fact, the reason why we put it 2, 4b is that the 4th verse begins in Hebrew and then switches over to Aramaic. Because if you read 2:4, it says, then they said like this, and the Chaldeans, they said like this, "O king, live forever." So it says, and the Chaldeans said like this, that initial bit is in Hebrew, and whatever they speak, that speech is recorded in Aramaic, and it goes on until chapter 7, verse 28. Okay, so these are the total number of verses and total number of words in Aramaic in the entire Hebrew Bible. It's a very small portion, obviously, and therefore if anybody wants to learn biblical Aramaic, it's a pretty small vocabulary. Obviously the grammar would be tough as tough as Hebrew. It'll be different, but it will be similar. Okay, now let's look at Genesis 1, that particular verse. In Genesis 31, 46 and 47 I've put together because just to give a context, Jacob was there along with his brethren. He told them to gather the stones and make a heap, right? So Laban, Jacob's father-in-law, pursues Jacob because Jacob took his wives and his sons and left Laban's place without telling him. And after a couple of days, Laban realizes that Jacob is gone with all the family, so he pursues them, and finally he meets them. And they finally make an agreement, a pact, and this is the heap of stones, which Laban calls Yegar Sahaduta. Yegar Sahaduta. And Jacob calls it Galed. Galed. So this word Yagar Sahaduta means witness heap. Witness heap. So this heap of stones is a witness. Okay, that's the meaning. Now, Galed means also witness heap. This is Hebrew and that is Aramaic. And so Laban gives it in Aramaic, and we have Jacob speaking in Hebrew. Obviously, because Jacob was born in the land of Canaan, and he went to Mesopotamia. He went to, Padan Aram. So Aram is Syria. Aramaic comes from, the word Aramaic comes from Aram. So Aram and Aramaic, Aramaic is the language of Aram. So that's where Jacob goes. And so the whole household of Laban, Bethuel, and all these people, Abraham's relatives, are Aramaic speaking. And so the whole of Israelites, from the mother's side, they are Aramaic, father's side, they're Hebrew. So it's all mixed up. Very interesting. Okay, in Galed, this word ed means witness. Okay, and so obviously this is the heap, Galed. So very short compared to Yagar Sahaduta in Aramaic. Okay, so there's another interesting verse which has both the words slightly differently. In Job 16 and 19, here Job says also, now behold my witness, Edi, Ain. This is, of course, it's a bit tough to pronounce it correctly. The Arabic people pronounce it very well. I'm not so good at it. I'll try. Edi, That's, it's like from the throat, from the back of the throat, you call it. It's not or Edi, it's Edi, right? So Edi means my witness. Ed is witness. Here, Sahad, Vesahadi, my witness. Again, my record. It is translated as record. This is also witness. Sahad is in Aramaic. And so Job is looks like he's bilingual. I mean, this happens all the time. Like in India, for example, there are lots of people, especially in some cities where there is a bilingual tradition, right? People use English words in their regular language, or sometimes in a city called Hyderabad, for example, they speak Telugu. They also speak Urdu. 2 languages, and they mix up Urdu words in the Telugu language, which I'm familiar with, both of them. And so that's what Job is doing. Job is actually speaking in Hebrew, but then he introduces an Aramaic word as a synonym in his speech. Let's come back to another quick verse here in Proverbs 31:2. Proverbs 31:2 here, we read a particular word, bar, son. Bar means son. The words of King Lemuel, Divrei Lemuel Melech. Okay, and Massa is the burden or the prophecy. Asher Yiseratho Imo, his mother has taught him. Ma beri, what my son. Uma bar bithni, what the son of my womb. Ume var nidarai, what the son of my vows. So this bar means son. Okay, that's the Aramaic word. Another thing that I would like to show is that single verse in Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 11. Now I put here verse 10 and verse 11, and I took a snapshot from the Blue Letter Bible, and that's because you could see the previous verse as well in the context. I didn't want to cram everything in the format that I have, and therefore let's read this. But the Lord, that is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, but the Lord Adonai Hashem, but the Lord is the true God. He is the living God and an everlasting King. At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation. And the next verse, this is the only verse in the whole book of Jeremiah which is in Aramaic. Very interesting. Why did he put this verse in Aramaic? Because he's now, well, you can say, cursing the gods. Thus shall he say to them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, even they shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. Now let's read Aramaic. Kidna Femrun. Means tomar, or amar is the verb in Hebrew. I think it's the same root here as well in Aramaic, aleph mem resh. So Kidna Femrun lehom, it would be lahem, to say to them in Hebrew, lahem lehom. Elahaya, that is Elohim, plural, the gods. Elahaya dishmaya ve'archa la avdu. The gods who the heavens and the earth, who did not make the heavens and the earth, right? They will, that until here, right? They will perish. Ye avdu me'ar'a umin techot shamaya ele. Under the heavens, shamaim is in Hebrew, shamaya is Aramaic, elahaya is gods, Elohim, plural, Shemaya is Shemaim, and Aretz, or Eretz, Arka is Aretz. Okay? Right. So here also, Ar'a is also the earth. So he's cursing the gods that they will perish, obviously. And he's written that in Aramaic. And the next verse, verse 12, begins in Hebrew again. Only the Lord is the true God. All other gods, they have not made the heaven and the earth. They are there. They will perish. They will be killed, given death sentence. You should read Psalm 82. You will find it. The death sentence of these gods. Okay. Thank you for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And click the bell icon, forward it to your friends, and I will see you again in the next video. Thank you very much.